The morning started like any other morning on the Calthene homeworld. The twin suns rose over the crystal towers of the capital city. Matriarch Velsara stood at her window, watching the sky turn from purple to gold. She was thinking about her daughter, Kiravel, who was traveling to a nearby star system for a diplomatic meeting. Velsara was the empress of the Calthene Empire. Her people were ancient and powerful, ruling over 30 different star systems. They looked like giant insects with smooth black shells and compound eyes that could see more colors than humans could imagine. But they were nothing like the simple bugs of Earth. They were smart, organized, and proud of their long history. For the Calthene, family bloodlines were everything. The right to rule passed from mother to daughter through thousands of years. Velsara had only one child, Princess Kiravel. The young princess was smart and brave. Everyone loved her. She was training to become the next empress, learning about politics, war, and how to lead their people. Commander Gentok entered the room. He was the head of the royal guard, a warrior who had served the empress for many years. His shell bore scars from old battles. He bowed low before speaking. "Your Majesty, we have received the princess's first report. The diplomatic mission is going well. They should arrive at their destination in 3 hours." Velsara nodded. "Good, Kiravel is doing well. This mission will be good experience for her." But 2 hours later, everything changed. The peaceful morning turned into a nightmare. Alarms began ringing throughout the palace. Gentok ran into the throne room, his face showing fear for the first time in all the years Velsara had known him. "Your Majesty, the princess's ship has encountered something terrible, a spatial anomaly." "A void tear!" Velsara felt her heart stop. The void tear. It was one of the most dangerous things in space. It was a rip in reality itself, a place where the normal laws of physics broke down. Ships that went into a void tear were torn apart. The energy inside could destroy matter at the molecular level. "Get me a communication link. Now," Velsara ordered. The palace command center was chaos. Officers were shouting. Screens showed static and broken images. Finally, they got a partial signal from the princess's ship. The image was distorted, breaking up every few seconds. "Mother," Kiravel's voice came through, full of static. "We tried to avoid it, but the void tear appeared right in front of us. The ship is breaking apart. The crew is evacuating in escape pods. Get to a pod." "Get out of there now," Velsara screamed. "I'm trying, but the bridge is damaged. The door won't open." "Mother, The signal died." The screen went black. Velsara stood frozen. Around her, the officers were silent. Everyone knew what this meant. 20 minutes later, the rescue ships arrived at the location. They found debris floating in space. They found escape pods with survivors. But they also found something else. They found Princess Kiravel's body. She was floating in space near what remained of the ship. Her body was intact, but the medical scanners showed no life signs. Her neural pathways were completely dark. Her cells showed signs of massive damage from the void energy. The rescue team brought her body back immediately. Velsara was waiting in the medical wing of the palace. The royal physicians were already there, the best doctors in the entire empire. They worked for hours. They tried everything they knew. They used their most advanced technology, their most powerful medicines, but nothing worked. Finally, the head physician approached the empress. His voice was gentle but firm. "Your Majesty, I'm sorry. The princess is dead. The void energy destroyed her neural tissue. There is no brain activity. Her cells are dying. According to every law of biology we know, this damage cannot be reversed. Death by void exposure is absolute." "No," Velsara whispered. "There must be something. Some way." The physician shook his head sadly. "Your Majesty, I have been a doctor for 60 years. I have studied the biology of 100 different species. Death like this cannot be undone. The brain is gone. The person is gone. I am truly sorry." Velsara looked at her daughter's body. Kiravel looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. But she would never wake up. The heir to the empire was dead. Velsara's only child was gone. The empress made a decision. She stood up straight, her voice strong despite her grief. "Send a message to every corner of the galaxy. Offer any price, any reward to anyone who can save my daughter. Contact every medical facility, every research station, every species with advanced technology. Someone, somewhere must know a way." Gentok hesitated. "Your Majesty, the physicians have said it is impossible." "I did not ask what is impossible." Velsara's voice echoed through the chamber. "I asked what could be done. Send the message now." The message went out across the galaxy. It reached hundreds of worlds, thousands of species. The Calthene Empire was offering incredible wealth and political favors to anyone who could bring Princess Kiravel back to life. The responses came quickly. But they were all the same. The Valorax, masters of genetic engineering, said it was impossible. The crystalline minds, beings of pure energy who understood quantum physics better than anyone, said the damage was too severe. The Elders of Proxima, a species millions of years old with technology that seemed like magic, said that death by void exposure could not be reversed. Every species in the galaxy had the same answer. The princess was dead. Nothing could change that. It was a law of nature itself. Velsara refused to accept it. She ordered Kiravel's body placed in a stasis field to prevent further decay. She spent every waking moment searching for answers, reading medical texts from a dozen civilizations, consulting with experts from across the stars. The Calthene Empire began preparing for mourning. The death of an heir was a major event. There would be ceremonies, rituals that lasted for months. The Empire would need to decide on a new line of succession. Everything would change, but Velsara was not ready to mourn. She was not ready to accept that her daughter was gone forever. Every night she visited the medical wing where Kiravel's body lay in stasis. She would stand there for hours just watching, hoping for some miracle that would never come. Gentak was worried about his empress. She was not sleeping. She was not eating. The grief was consuming her. He had served the royal family his entire life, and he had never seen Velsara like this. She had always been strong, always in control. Now she looked broken. 3 days passed. The galaxy had moved on. The consensus was clear. Princess Kiravel was beyond help. It was time for the Calthene to accept reality and begin the mourning process. Then, on the evening of the third day, something unexpected happened. A small ship entered orbit around the Calthene homeworld. It was not a grand vessel. It was old, practical, and unmarked. The kind of ship that independent travelers used. The kind of ship that was common in human space. The ship sent a simple message to the palace. I received your call for help. I believe I can save Princess Kiravel. Request permission to land and speak with Matriarch Velsara. The message was signed. Dr. Nathan Cole, human. Gentak brought the message to Velsara immediately. She read it, then read it again. A human? Humans were newcomers to the galaxy. They had only been traveling between stars for a few centuries. What could they possibly know that the ancient civilizations did not? But Velsara was desperate. She would grasp at any hope, no matter how small. Give him permission to land, she ordered. Bring him to me at once. Nathan Cole walked through the crystal corridors of the Calthene Palace. He had never been in a place like this before. The walls were smooth and reflected light in strange ways. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Everything was built on a scale much larger than what humans needed. The Calthene were bigger than humans, and their buildings showed it. Katie Brennan walked beside him carrying their medical equipment. She had been Nathan's assistant for 5 years now. She was practical, calm under pressure, and never questioned his unusual methods. That was important because Nathan's methods were very unusual. Are you sure about this? Katie asked quietly. If we fail, it could hurt humanity's reputation in the galaxy. Nathan smiled slightly. If we fail, we'll be no worse off than everyone else who said it was impossible. But if we succeed, we'll show the galaxy what humans can do. Katie finished. They were led into a large chamber. It was the throne room. At the far end, sitting on a platform, was Matriarch Velsara. She looked tired. Her compound eyes, which normally shone with many colors, looked dull. Around her stood several advisors and the royal guard. Nathan and Katie bowed respectfully. That was the custom for meeting a Calthene ruler. Dr. Cole, Velsara's voice was deep and musical, the way all Calthene voices were. You claim you can save my daughter. Every medical expert in the galaxy has said it is impossible. Why should I believe a human can do what no one else can? Nathan looked directly at the Empress. Your Majesty, I do not claim to know more than the experts. But I approach death differently than they do. That difference might be what your daughter needs. A Calthene stepped forward. He wore the armor of a high-ranking military officer. This was Commander Gentak. His voice was sharp and hostile. This is ridiculous. Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. Your medical technology is primitive compared to ours. What could you possibly do that our physicians cannot? Nathan did not seem offended. May I examine the princess's body? And may I see the medical reports? Velsara nodded. Show him. They took Nathan and Katie to the medical wing. Princess Kiravel's body lay on a table surrounded by a faint blue glow. That was the stasis field keeping her body from decaying further. Several royal physicians were there watching with skeptical expressions. Nathan spent 2 hours examining everything. He looked at Kiravel's body with scanners he brought from his ship. He read through pages of medical data. He asked questions that seemed strange to the Calthian doctors. Tell me about human medical history, one of the Calthian physicians said. What makes you think you can reverse death? Nathan looked up from his scanner. Humans come from a death world, Earth. Our planet tried to kill us in every way possible. Extreme heat and cold, dangerous animals, diseases, natural disasters. We evolved in an environment that was constantly trying to end us. What does that have to do with medicine? Another physician asked. Everything, Nathan replied. Humans never learned to accept death gracefully. For thousands of years we fought it. We developed something called CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. If someone's heart stopped, we would physically pump it by hand until it started again. Crude, but effective. The Calthian physicians looked at each other. One of them spoke. You mean you would manually compress the cardiovascular organ? That sounds barbaric. It is barbaric, Katie said, smiling, but it saves lives. That's the human way. We do what works, even if it is not elegant, Nathan continued. We also developed the concept of clinical death versus biological death. Clinical death is when the heart stops and breathing stops, but the brain can survive for several minutes after that. We learned to bring people back from clinical death. Then we pushed that window further. We used hypothermia to slow down cell death. We used electrical shocks to restart hearts. We refused to accept that death was final. But the princess's neural tissue is destroyed, a physician protested. This is not clinical death. This is complete cellular breakdown. I know, Nathan said quietly, but I have a theory. The void tear works on quantum principles. When Princess Kiravel was exposed to it, her neural patterns were disrupted at the quantum level. But quantum information cannot be destroyed. It can only be changed. I believe her consciousness still exists in some form, trapped in the quantum state. That is impossible, the head physician said flatly. Consciousness requires a functioning brain. The brain is destroyed. Then I will rebuild the brain, Nathan said. There was silence in the room. The Calthian physician stared at Nathan like he was insane. How? Gentok demanded. He had been listening from the doorway. Nathan pulled up a holographic display.
I use something called neural scaffolding.
It is experimental human technology. We use nanomachines, tiny robots smaller than cells, to build a framework. This framework guides the regrowth of neural tissue. At the same time, we use quantum entanglement to map what remains of the princess's consciousness from the void energy signature. And then, Velsara had entered the room without anyone noticing. She had been listening. Nathan turned to face the Empress. Then we restart her biological systems. Heart, lungs, everything. We bring her back piece by piece. It will be like bringing someone back from extreme hypothermia, but much more complicated. The chances of success? Velsara asked. Nathan was honest. I do not know. I have never attempted this on anyone exposed to void energy. But the theory is sound, and I believe it will work. Your Majesty, this is madness, the head physician said. This human is talking about experimental procedures that have never been tested. He could damage the princess's body beyond any hope of restoration. We should prepare for proper mourning rites. Velsara looked at her daughter's body in the stasis field. She thought about never hearing Kiravel's voice again, never seeing her smile, never watching her become the great leader she was meant to be. What do I have to lose? Velsara asked quietly. My daughter is already dead. Everyone in the galaxy agrees on that. If Dr. Cole fails, then we are no worse than we are now. But if he succeeds, she turned to Nathan. Her eyes met his, human and Calthian, looking at each other across the vast differences of biology and culture, but united in one thing, the refusal to accept defeat. Dr. Cole, you have my permission. Do whatever you need to do. Save my daughter. The physicians protested. The advisors argued, but Velsara silenced them all with a gesture. This human came to help when everyone else said it was hopeless. The least we can do is let him try. Nathan nodded. Thank you, Your Majesty. Katie and I will need to convert part of this medical wing into an operating theater. We need to combine human and Calthene equipment. It will take several hours to prepare. You have whatever you need, Velsara said. Time, equipment, personnel? Just bring her back. Nathan and Katie went to work immediately. They brought in equipment from their ship. Strange human devices that the Calthene had never seen before. Electrical stimulation units, mechanical pumps, chemical synthesizers, computer systems running human medical software. The Calthene physicians watched with growing disbelief. Some of the equipment looked ancient, crude compared to their elegant medical technology. But Nathan knew exactly what he was doing. Every piece had a purpose. Katie worked alongside him, setting up monitoring systems, preparing the nanomachines, calibrating the quantum scanners. They had done this kind of work before, though never on such a difficult case. Tell me about these nanomachines, one of the younger Calthene physicians asked. Her name was Dr. Silvara, and unlike her older colleagues, she seemed interested rather than skeptical. Katie explained while she worked. They are microscopic robots. Each one is programmed with instructions for cellular repair. They can identify damaged tissue and fix it at the molecular level, but they need a guide, a template to follow. That is where the neural scaffold comes in. And the scaffold is based on quantum mapping? Silvara asked. Exactly, Nathan said. We scan the quantum signatures left by the void energy. That gives us a map of what the princess's neural patterns looked like before the damage. Then we use that map to guide the nanomachines in rebuilding the tissue. That is brilliant, Silvara whispered. Insane but brilliant. Hours passed. The preparations continued. Word spread through the palace and then through the city. The human doctor was going to attempt the impossible. Some people were hopeful. Others thought it was disrespectful to the princess's memory. But everyone was watching. Finally, as the twin suns set outside, Nathan stood back and looked at the operating theater they had created. It was ready. Katie, run a final check on all systems, he said. She did. Everything was working perfectly. Nathan looked at Princess Kiravel's body in the stasis field. She looked so peaceful, so young. He thought about his own sister, who had died when he was a teenager. The doctors had said there was nothing they could do. He had sworn that day that he would never accept such an answer again. All right, Nathan said. Let's bring her back. The stasis field around Princess Kiravel flickered and disappeared. Nathan and Katie moved quickly, transferring her body onto the operating table they had prepared. Sensors attached to her body immediately, monitoring every possible biological function, or rather monitoring the absence of biological function. In the observation room above, Matriarch Velsara watched. She had not moved from that spot since the procedure began. Commander Gentok stood beside her, his armored body rigid with tension. The royal physicians were there too, their faces showing doubt and curiosity in equal measure. Nathan worked with steady hands. Katie, start the quantum scanner. We need to map the void signature before we do anything else. Katie activated a device that hummed with power. Blue light washed over Kiravel's body. On the screens around them, data began appearing. Patterns, energy signatures, quantum echoes of what had been. There, Nathan pointed at the screen. See those patterns? That is what remains of her neural structure. The void did not destroy it completely. It changed it, shifted it into a quantum state. We need to translate that back into physical neural tissue. How long will this take? Velsara's voice came through the communication system. Many hours, Your Majesty, Nathan replied without looking up from his work. This is not something that can be rushed. The first step was the hardest. Nathan had to inject billions of nanomachines into Kiravel's body. These tiny robots would start repairing the cellular damage, but they needed programming first. They needed to know what to rebuild. Katie created the neural scaffold from the quantum data. It was like building a three-dimensional map inside a computer. A map that showed where every neuron should be, where every connection should form. It was incredibly complex. The Calthene physicians watching could barely understand what they were seeing. The scaffold is ready, Katie announced after 2 hours of work. Good. Uploading it to the nanomachines now. Nathan's fingers moved across the controls, beginning neural reconstruction. On the microscopic level, things were happening that would have seemed like magic to anyone watching. The nanomachines were working together, molecule by molecule, building new brain tissue. They followed the scaffold exactly, recreating neural pathways that had been destroyed by the void. Hours passed. Nathan and Katie worked without stopping. Sometimes Nathan would adjust the process, tweaking variables when things did not go exactly as planned. Katie monitored dozens of systems at once, making sure everything stayed in balance. Then the first crisis hit. "Nathan, the scaffold is destabilizing." Katie's voice was urgent but controlled. Nathan looked at the screens. The neural scaffold was collapsing. The quantum patterns were breaking apart. If this continued, all their work would be lost. Why is it happening? Nathan thought out loud. The quantum state should be stable unless... Katie was already working on the problem. Quantum entanglement. The princess's consciousness is still partially connected to the void energy. We need to stabilize that connection while we rebuild the physical substrate. Can we do that? Nathan asked. Katie's hands moved across her console. I learned about this in my quantum physics courses. We can create an artificial entanglement field to hold the patterns stable. It is theoretical, but do it, Nathan ordered. Katie worked fast, reprogramming one of their systems to generate the entanglement field. It was risky. If she got the calculations wrong, it could tear apart what little remained of Kiravel's consciousness. But if she did nothing, the scaffold would collapse anyway. Activating field. Now, a new kind of energy filled the operating room. The Calthine sensors detected it, but their systems could not identify what it was. The human equipment glowed with strange light. On the screens, the neural scaffold stabilized. The quantum patterns held together. The nanomachines continued their work. Good work, Nathan said. He looked tired but focused. In the observation room, Dr. Silvara turned to her colleagues. Did you see that? They improvised a solution using quantum theory. I have never seen anything like it. The head physician frowned. It is reckless. They are experimenting on the princess's body. But it is working, Velsera said quietly. Her eyes never left her daughter's body. More hours passed. The neural reconstruction continued. Slowly, piece by piece, Princess Kiravel's brain was being rebuilt. It was not the same tissue that had been destroyed. This was new tissue, grown from the molecular level up, but it followed the same patterns, the same connections. It was her brain, recreated. Then came the second crisis. Nathan, we have a problem, Katie said. The nanomachines are being rejected. Her immune system is fighting them. Nathan checked the data. Even in death or near death, Kiravel's body was still defending itself. The Calthine immune system was incredibly strong. It saw the human nanomachines as invaders and was trying to destroy them. We need to modify the nanomachines, Nathan said. Make them compatible with Calthine biology. That will take time. Time we might not have, Nathan's mind raced. He looked at the Calthine physicians in the observation room. Then he activated the communication system. Dr. Silvara, I need your help. I need to understand Calthine immune responses at the molecular level. Can you give me that data? Silvara looked at the head physician, who nodded reluctantly. She transmitted the information immediately. Nathan absorbed the data quickly. His brain made connections, saw patterns. He began reprogramming the nanomachines, changing their surface proteins to mimic Calthine cellular markers. It was complex work, the kind that would normally take days. But Nathan had an intuitive understanding of xenobiology that came from years of study and experience. Uploading new programming to the nanomachines, he announced. This should make them invisible to the immune system. They watched the screens anxiously. The rejection response began to slow. Then it stopped. The nanomachines continued their work, now accepted by Kiravel's body as if they belonged there. How did he do that? Silvara breathed. He modified the nanomachines in minutes. That should be impossible. Perhaps impossible is not a word humans understand, Gentok said. There was a new tone in his voice. Not quite respect, but the beginning of it. The procedure continued through the night. Nathan and Katie did not rest. They could not afford to. Every moment was critical. They drank water and ate quick meals without stopping their work. Around them, the Calthine palace was quiet. Word had spread that the human doctor was still working, still fighting to save the princess. People who would normally be sleeping were awake, following the news, hoping for a miracle. By dawn, the neural reconstruction was complete. Princess Kiravel had a brain again. It was perfect, every connection in place, but it was not active. There was no consciousness, no life. It was just tissue. Now comes the hard part, Nathan said. We need to restart her biological systems and hope that the consciousness follows. How do we do that? Katie asked. Nathan smiled slightly. The old-fashioned way. We start the heart. He positioned his hands over Kiravel's chest. The Calthene cardiovascular system was different from a human heart, but the principle was the same. Apply pressure, force circulation, get blood moving. Is he really going to do CPR on her? One of the Calthene physicians asked in disbelief. Yes, Velsera whispered. He is. Nathan began compressions. His hands moved in a steady rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. Katie was ready with the electrical stimulation, waiting for the right moment. Now, Nathan ordered. Katie triggered the stimulator. Electricity coursed through Kiravel's body. Her muscles contracted. Her limbs jerked. Nothing happened. Nathan continued compressions. Again! Another shock. Another spasm of muscles. Still nothing. Come on, Kiravel, Nathan muttered. You can do this. Your mother is waiting for you. Compressions. Another shock. Nothing. In the observation room, Gentok moved toward the door. He was going to stop this. It had failed. They needed to let the princess rest in peace. But Velsera grabbed his arm. Wait, she said. Nathan continued working. His arms were tired, but he did not stop. Katie prepared for another shock. Then one of the monitors beeped. A single blip on the neural activity screen, then another, then a third. Her brain is activating, Katie said, her voice shaking with emotion. The cardiovascular monitor showed a weak pulse, then a stronger one. Kiravel's chest began to rise and fall on its own. She was breathing. Slowly, her eyes opened. They were unfocused at first, looking at nothing. Then they moved, scanning the room. They found Nathan's face. Where? Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. Where am I? Nathan smiled, tears running down his face. You are safe, princess. You are home. Kiravel's eyes moved past him to the observation window. She saw her mother standing there, pressed against the glass, her whole body shaking. Mother, Kiravel whispered. Velsera could not speak. She could only stare at her daughter, alive, awake, looking back at her. Around her, the physicians were in shock. Gentok's face showed disbelief. Even Dr. Silvara was crying. Nathan stepped back from the operating table. His legs were shaking from exhaustion. Katie caught him before he fell. We did it, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. We actually did it. Princess Kiravel was alive. She had been dead. Truly dead. Her body destroyed by forces that should have been irreversible. But a human doctor, using methods that seemed primitive and desperate, had brought her back. 3 weeks had passed since Princess Kiravel opened her eyes. The palace medical wing had become her home during recovery. Nathan and Katie stayed close, monitoring her progress every day. The Calthene physicians, especially Dr. Silvara, worked alongside them, learning from the human methods. Kiravel was doing better than anyone expected. Her body had accepted the neural reconstruction perfectly. She had no loss of memory, no damage to her personality or skills. If anything, her neural connections seemed to work even better than before. The scaffold that Nathan created had made her brain more efficient. But there was something strange. Sometimes Kiravel would get a distant look in her eyes. She said she remembered fragments of her time in the void. Not clear memories, more like dreams or feelings. She described it as being everywhere and nowhere at once, existing in a state that had no words in any language. Nathan examined her carefully when she mentioned these experiences. The quantum state you were in might have left some impressions, he explained. Your consciousness touched something beyond normal reality. Those memories might fade with time, or they might always be with you. But they are not harmful, Kiravel nodded. She was sitting in a chair near the window, looking out at the city. I am grateful to be alive, Dr. Cole. I know what you did was supposed to be impossible. Nathan smiled. Humans have never been very good at accepting impossible. Why is that? Kiravel asked. I have been thinking about this. Your species is so young compared to mine. Yet you do things that ancient civilizations say cannot be done. Where does that come from? Nathan sat down across from her. We come from a hard world. Earth tried to kill us in every way possible. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, extreme weather. For thousands of years we lived on the edge of extinction. That shaped how we think. You learned to never give up, Kiravel said. Exactly. Humans who accepted limits died. The ones who survived were the stubborn ones. The ones who kept trying even when things looked hopeless. After millions of years of that, stubbornness became part of our nature. Kiravel looked thoughtful. My people ruled this sector of space for 10,000 years. We became comfortable. We learned all we thought there was to learn. Maybe we forgot how to challenge the impossible. You can learn again, Nathan said. That is what I hope comes from this. Not just saving one life, but changing how people think about medicine, about death, about limits. Their conversation was interrupted by Matriarch Velsara entering the room. She came to visit her daughter multiple times each day. The Empress had changed since Kiravel's recovery. The grief and desperation were gone, replaced by fierce gratitude and determination. Dr. Cole, Velsara said, I wanted to inform you. The news of what you accomplished has spread throughout the galaxy. We are receiving communications from hundreds of worlds. What kind of communications? Nathan asked. Many types. Medical institutions want to learn your techniques. Some governments are worried about humans changing the natural order. Religious groups have various opinions, but mostly people are amazed. You did something that the oldest and wisest civilization said was impossible. Katie entered the room carrying a data pad. Nathan, you need to see this. The Galactic Medical Council has requested that you present your findings at their next meeting. They want to discuss changing their protocols for what they consider irreversible death. Nathan raised his eyebrows. That is a big deal. The Medical Council never changes their protocols. You gave them no choice, Velsara said. You proved that their understanding of death was incomplete. They must adapt or look foolish. 2 days later, Nathan stood before the Galactic Medical Council. It was held in a massive space station that orbited a neutral world. Representatives from over 200 species filled the chamber. Nathan had never seen so many different types of beings in one place. He was nervous but tried not to show it. Katie stood beside him for support. They had prepared a presentation showing exactly what they did to save Kiravel. The chairman of the council, a being made of crystalline energy, spoke first. Dr. Cole, your actions have created significant debate in the medical community. Some call you a genius. Others call you reckless. Please explain your methods so that we may judge for ourselves. Nathan took a deep breath and began. He explained the concept of clinical death versus biological death. He described how human medicine had always pushed to extend the window of reversible death. He detailed the neural scaffolding technique, the use of nanomachines, the quantum mapping of consciousness. As he spoke, he could see the reactions in the chamber. Some species were fascinated. Others looked skeptical. A few seemed angry, as if he had violated some sacred rule. When he finished, a representative from the elders of Proxima stood up. This species was millions of years old and considered themselves the wisest beings in the galaxy. Dr. Cole, you claim to have reversed death, but death is a fundamental law of nature. Life ends, that is the way of the universe. Are you saying that your young species understands nature better than those of us who have studied it for eons? Nathan met the elder's gaze. With respect, I am not claiming to understand nature better. I am claiming that our definition of death was too simple. What we call death is not always an endpoint. Sometimes it is a process, one that can be interrupted if we act quickly and correctly. You are splitting philosophical hairs, another representative said. Princess Kiravel's neural tissue was destroyed. That is death. Her neural tissue was damaged, Nathan corrected, but the quantum information that made her who she was still existed. I simply found a way to translate that information back into physical form. And what gives you the right to do such things? A religious representative demanded. Who are you to decide who lives and who dies? Nathan felt his temper rising but kept his voice calm. I am a doctor. My job is to save lives. If I have the ability to save someone and I choose not to act because it seems impossible, then I have failed as a doctor. I refuse to accept that. The chamber erupted in debate. Different species argued with each other. Some supported Nathan's position. Others condemned it. The chairman had to call for order several times. Finally, a medical representative from a species called the Velarax stood up. They were known for their expertise in genetics and biology. I have studied Dr. Cole's methods, the Velarax said. They are sound. More than that, they are revolutionary. We have been complacent, accepting death too easily. The humans have shown us that we can do better. I propose that we establish new protocols based on the human concept of the golden hour. What is the golden hour? Someone asked. Nathan explained. It is the critical time period after trauma, when medical intervention is most effective. In human medicine, we know that fast action in the golden hour can save lives that would otherwise be lost. We should apply this thinking to all emergency medical situations. The debate continued for hours. But slowly, Nathan could see opinions changing. The evidence was undeniable. Princess Kiravel was alive. That was a fact no one could argue with. At the end of the session, the council voted. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed. They would revise their medical protocols to include human concepts of reversible death and aggressive early intervention. They would establish research programs to study Nathan's techniques. Most importantly, they would change how rescue operations worked. Instead of simply recovering bodies, rescue teams would be equipped to provide immediate life-saving intervention. The assumption would no longer be that trauma victims are dead until proven alive. Instead, the assumption would be that they are alive until all options for revival are exhausted. It was a huge victory. Katie hugged Nathan as they left the chamber. You did it. You changed galactic medicine. But Nathan knew the real work was just beginning. Changing protocols was one thing. Changing minds was another. He would need to train doctors from dozens of species. He would need to adapt his techniques for different biologies. It would take years. When they returned to the Calthene homeworld, they found that political changes were happening there too. Matriarch Velsara had been working behind the scenes, using her considerable influence in galactic politics. She called Nathan and Katie to a private meeting. Commander Gentok was there too. The warrior who had once been so hostile to them now looked at them with clear respect. Dr. Cole, Katie Brennan, Velsara began. You saved my daughter. You changed how the galaxy thinks about medicine. But I believe humanity deserves more recognition than just scientific acknowledgement. She gestured to a holographic display. It showed the seal of the Galactic Council, the governing body for all major civilizations. I have spent the last 3 weeks speaking with other leaders, calling in favors, making arguments. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council will vote on whether to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Council. This is unprecedented for such a young species, but I have convinced them that you have earned it. Nathan was stunned. Your Majesty, I do not know what to say. Say you will help establish the Interspecies Medical Academy that my daughter proposed, Velsara said. Say you will share your knowledge with the galaxy. That is the best payment I can ask for. Of course, Nathan said. That is why I became a doctor. To help people, to save lives. Gentok stepped forward. I must apologize to you both. 6 months had passed since Princess Kiravel opened her eyes. The Calthene homeworld was preparing for a ceremony unlike any in their long history. The Grand Hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Humans, Calthene, Velarax, the crystalline mines, even the ancient elders of Proxima, all had come to witness something special. Nathan stood backstage with Katie, both wearing formal clothes that felt strange after months of medical scrubs and work uniforms. Katie adjusted Nathan's collar for the 3rd time. Stop fidgeting, she said with a smile. This is a big honor. Try to look dignified. I am a doctor, not a diplomat, Nathan muttered. I am better with patients than crowds. Well, today you get to be both, Katie laughed. A Calthene attendant signaled to them. It was time. Nathan and Katie walked out onto the stage. The Grand Hall was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to touch the sky. Thousands of beings watched them. Some had traveled across the galaxy to be here. Matriarch Velsara sat on her throne looking regal and powerful. Beside her stood Princess Kiravel, fully recovered and glowing with health. Commander Gentok stood at attention in his ceremonial armor. Dr. Silvara was there too, representing the medical community. Velsara stood, and the hall fell silent. Her voice carried across the space, amplified by Calthene technology. 6 months ago I lost my daughter. The heir to the Calthene Empire was taken from me by forces we all believed were beyond our control. Every medical expert in the galaxy told me to accept her death. They said it was impossible to save her. She paused, looking at Nathan and Katie. But 2 humans did not accept that answer. Dr. Nathan Cole and Katie Brennan came to us with methods that seemed primitive, with techniques that appeared desperate, with a philosophy that refused to recognize limits, and they gave me back my daughter. The hall erupted in applause. Nathan felt his face getting hot. He was not used to this kind of attention. Velsara continued. Today we honor these humans with the Star of Life. the highest civilian award in the Calthene Empire. This honor has never been given to non-Calthene before. But then, no non-Calthene has ever earned it the way they have. Kiravel stepped forward, carrying 2 medals. They were beautiful, made of crystal that caught the light and split it into rainbows. The princess approached Nathan first. She placed the medal around his neck, then touched her forehead to his in the traditional Calthene gesture of deep respect. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on me." Nathan felt tears in his eyes. "It was my honor, princess." Kiravel then placed a medal on Katie, repeating the gesture. Katie, who was never emotional, was openly crying. "Furthermore," Velsera announced, "we declare Dr. Cole and Katie Brennan to be honorary members of the Calthene royal family. They will always have a home here, always have our protection, always have our gratitude." More applause. Nathan looked out at the crowd and saw faces from species he had never met. All of them were clapping. All of them were watching humanity's representatives with new respect. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Nathan found himself surrounded by medical professionals from dozens of worlds. They all had questions. They all wanted to learn. Dr. Silvara stayed close, helping him navigate the crowd and translate for species whose languages he did not know. One elderly physician from the Elders of Proxima approached. This was the same species that had questioned Nathan at the medical council. "Dr. Cole, I owe you an apology," the elder said. "I questioned your methods. I said you were violating natural law. I was wrong. You showed me that my understanding of natural law was incomplete." Nathan shook the elder's appendage. "No apology needed. Questioning new ideas is part of science. I am just glad the evidence convinced you." "The evidence was hard to argue with," the elder said with what might have been a smile. "A living princess is quite convincing." Later, Katie found Nathan standing alone on a balcony looking out at the city. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in colors that Earth never saw. "Thinking about home?" she asked. "Yeah," Nathan admitted. "We have been gone for months. I wonder how things are back on Earth." "I checked the news feeds," Katie said. "You are famous there too. Every human news service is covering the story. They are calling you the doctor who beat death." Nathan laughed. "I did not beat death. I just refused to accept it without a fight." "That is what makes you human," Kiravel said. She had approached quietly. "May I join you?" "Of course, princess," Nathan said. The 3 of them stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sunset. "I have news," Kiravel said. "The Galactic Council voted this morning. Humanity has been offered a permanent seat. You are officially part of galactic leadership now," Katie gasped. "That is incredible. It usually takes thousands of years for a species to get council representation." "My mother called in every favor she had," Kiravel said. "But it was not just politics. The council recognized that humanity brings something valuable to the galaxy. A perspective that we need, the willingness to challenge accepted truths." "What will humanity's representative do first?" Katie asked. "That is up to your government," Kiravel said. "But I hope they will support the Interspecies Medical Academy. We need it, the galaxy needs it." "They will," Nathan said confidently. "This is too important to ignore." Over the following weeks, Nathan saw the impact of what he had done spreading throughout the galaxy. News came from different worlds, stories of lives saved using the new protocols. A Velorax child pulled from the wreckage of a ship and revived using neural scaffolding. An elder of Proxima rescued from a spatial anomaly and brought back after what would have previously been considered death. A crystalline mind whose energy patterns were stabilized using quantum entanglement techniques. Each story made Nathan feel that his work was worthwhile. Each life saved justified the risks he had taken. The medical academy was established quickly. It was built on a neutral world accessible to all species. Hundreds of students applied in the first week. They wanted to learn the human way of medicine, the philosophy that refused to accept death as inevitable. Nathan was offered the position of dean. He accepted, knowing it would keep him away from Earth for years. But this was too important. He could help train a generation of doctors who would save countless lives across the galaxy. Katie became his deputy, managing the day-to-day operations while Nathan focused on curriculum and research. Dr. Silvara joined them as the head of the xenobiology department. Commander Gentak, true to his word, oversaw the military medical programs. On the day before Nathan and Katie left the Calthene homeworld to set up the academy, Matriarch Velsara requested a private audience. They met in her personal chambers, not the formal throne room. This was a meeting between friends, not officials. "Dr. Cole, I want to give you something," Velsara said. She handed him a small crystal. "This is a Calthene memory stone. It contains recordings of Kiravel from when she was young. Her first words, her first steps, important moments from her life." Nathan looked at the crystal, confused. "Your Majesty, this is precious. Why are you giving it to me?" "Because you need to understand what you saved," Velsara said softly. "You saved a princess, yes. But more than that, you saved my daughter. You saved all these memories, all these moments. You saved the future we will have together. That is worth more than any empire." Nathan felt his throat tighten. "Your Majesty, You asked me once what you could possibly be paid for saving my daughter's life," Velsara interrupted. "I told you that the payment was the spreading of knowledge, the saving of lives across the galaxy. That is still true, but I want you to know that what you did was personal, not just political. You gave a mother her child back. That is something I can never repay." Nathan bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will treasure this." That evening, Nathan's ship lifted off from the Calthene homeworld. Katie sat beside him in the co-pilot seat. They were headed to the neutral world where the academy would be built. As the planet shrank behind them, Katie asked, "Do you think we really changed the galaxy?" Nathan looked at the stars spreading out before them. So many worlds, so many species, so many lives that could now be saved because people would not give up so easily. "We showed them it is possible to fight death itself and win," Nathan said. "We showed them that the word impossible is just a challenge, not a wall. What they do with that knowledge is up to them." "But yes, I think we started something important." Katie smiled. "So what comes next?" "Next, we build the academy. We train doctors from 100 different species. We teach them that medicine is not about accepting limits. It is about pushing past them. We create a new generation of healers who refuse to give up." "That will take years," Katie observed. "Good thing we are humans then," Nathan said with a grin. "We are very good at long, hard fights." Behind them, the Calthene homeworld disappeared into the distance. But Nathan knew they would return. The bonds formed over the past months were too strong to break. Princess Kiravel was family now, in a way that went beyond honorary titles. Years later, historians would look back on this moment as a turning point in galactic history. The moment when an ancient civilization learned from a young one. The moment when the galaxy stopped accepting death so easily. The moment when humans proved that their greatest gift to the